Do you dream of breaking personal records, beating your competition, and getting better at your sport? Do you constantly worry if you're getting in all the nutrients that your body needs to be well fueled and build muscle? Just not sure what to eat so you can build muscle and get stronger? In today's episode, I'm going to break it all down for you exactly what you should be eating and when so you won't be guessing anymore. I'll also cover some common myths about eating to build muscle and some practical tips. So grab a pen and paper to take some notes and let's get it. Tired of feeling exhausted after training? Confused about how to fuel your body without all the food rules? Welcome to Female Sports Nutrition, where I'll help you fuel strong, build muscle, and perform your best, all while breaking free from diet culture. I'm Kristen, a sports dietitian, trainer, and Jesus lover, and I'm here to help you fuel with freedom. Lace up your shoes, grab that smoothie, and let's jump in. So you want to get stronger, build muscle, and boost your performance without completely draining your energy? Well, listen up, because I have great news for you. With my one-on-one coaching, you're going to learn everything you need to know about fueling your body so you can build muscle with confidence. Inside my one-on-one coaching program, you'll get personalized fueling plans, meal plans, and even prep strategies all tailored to you. No more guessing, Googling, or asking ChatGPT what to eat. I've got you. So join me now with my one-on-one coaching so I can create the ultimate fueling plan for you and you can get stronger by building muscle and confidence. Head on over to elitenutritionandperformance.com/coaching. So many years ago, I struggled with an eating disorder. This is when I was in college. I had gained a bunch of weight from going off to culinary school. I had stopped swimming 6 days a week and I gained weight and I didn't know how to lose it. So I wound up eating less. And as a result, I wound up losing weight. I actually wound up losing a lot of muscle. I had a good amount of muscle on me. So I lost probably both fat and muscle at the same time. But after that, I was really pretty weak. And so years later, when I finally moved past that eating disorder phase, I wanted to compete in a figure competition because this was always a personal goal of mine. And I knew in order to be competitive, I had to build a lot of muscle. But the problem was I was afraid to eat more food or enough food to build that muscle. And it wasn't until I really got past that anxiety about eating more and that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain all this weight, that really my progress skyrocketed and I was able to build over 10 pounds of muscle in just 3 months. I also felt amazing. I was able to set new PRs for myself. I remember having guys actually compliment me at the gym on how much I could squat, which was pretty cool. I was able to just lift a lot more while having a lot of energy. And quite frankly, you could tell I was a lot stronger looking. I had a lot more muscle on me. But ladies, do not get this confused with being bulky. I was certainly not bulky whatsoever. So if you're afraid of building muscle and it's going to make you bulky, it's not. So I'm telling you this story because I think a lot of particularly female athletes really struggle with that fear of eating too much that they're going to gain weight. Yet if you want to get stronger and you want to boost your sports performance, that's really what needs to happen. So that really brings me to my first point with this step-by-step guide on how to build muscle. The first thing is to really make sure that you are eating enough calories. And I'm going to make this super simple for you so that you don't have to do a whole bunch of crazy calculations to figure out if you are eating enough. The one tool that really helped me was a hunger fullness scale. So if you can imagine a scale where the lowest number is a 1, the highest number is a 10. 1 is where you are just starving. You're hangry. You could eat off your arm if you really had to. Maybe not that bad, but you get the point. 3 is where you are just getting your hunger signals, like you are maybe experiencing a little bit of a headache or some brain fog, your stomach's growling, that type of thing. A 5 is where you are just satisfied. You could keep eating, but you don't need to. Or maybe it's like how you feel right now. Maybe you are not necessarily hungry, but you could eat something. And then a 7 would be you're full. If you were to eat beyond that, you would be a little too full. So 8, 9, 10. 10 would be where you are nauseous. Totally overdid it. You ate way too much. So to ensure that you are actually getting in enough food, I would recommend eating when you are at a level 4. So you are just getting your first signs of hunger, but you're stopping at like a 7, maybe even an 8. So you're kind of pushing the envelope a little bit where you're eating enough to be in a little bit of an excess of what your normal amount is. And I know that can be very scary, but if you are really pushing yourself in the gym or in your training sessions, you're really pushing a lot of weight, or you're really pushing yourself, like I said, in your training sessions, your body will know what to do with that food and it will turn it into usable muscle. So that's number one, is to make sure that you are eating enough food. Number two is to make sure that you are getting in enough protein. So protein, I feel like this could go either way for female athletes. Some people feel like, oh my gosh, protein, makes it too heavy of a meal and I can't possibly eat that much food. Or some people are on the other side where they think, okay, well, protein is lean. I'm never going to gain weight, so I'm just going to only eat protein. And this really is a balance. My son actually asked me the other day, what is the most important thing that I need to eat in order to build muscle? And I was like, well, there's really not one important thing. There's multiple important things. And protein is just one of those. So protein, if you want a number, you're going to have to do a little bit of math here. You're going to have to take your weight, divide it by 2.2 to convert it into kilograms, and then multiply it by 1.2 to 2. And that's going to give you a nice range. And you can kind of play around with that range to see what works well for you. If you want a very easy way to figure this out, all you're going to do is take each of your meals and snacks and make a quarter of it protein. So take the palm of your hand, and it should be about that much worth of meat or eggs or cheese or whatever protein that you're going to have. Now, if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, I work with a lot of you out there who are vegetarian and vegan and really struggle on the protein front. You really want to make sure that you are getting protein from multiple places and you're getting it at every meal and every snack. So protein can come from meat, it can come from cheese, it can come from any type of dairy, eggs, fish, beans, tofu, nuts, seeds, protein powders, protein bars, nut butters. You get the idea. There's a lot of different protein sources. So meat eaters, obviously the easy way to do it is just to eat some meat. But if you do not eat meat, you are plant-based, then you really, like I said, need to focus on getting in multiple sources of protein and make sure that you're doing it at every meal and snack. And I would really recommend that for meat eaters or non-meat eaters. So going back to what my son asked me the other day, what was the most important thing that he needed to get in to build muscle? And I said, well, there wasn't just one thing. You need to also focus on carbohydrates, but you also need to focus on fat. So those are your three macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fat. So let's talk about carbohydrates. So carbohydrates is your body's primary energy source, but they're also essential for building muscle and maintaining muscle, and also giving you energy so that you can get through a workout and have a good amount of energy and also recover from that workout. Have you ever been so sore from a workout where you like just can't even sit on the toilet seat and you're like, this is awful, or you can't walk up the stairs? It's a terrible feeling. But if you are recovering well, you won't get that quite as much. I mean, certainly you'll get that delayed onset muscle soreness or DOMS, but it won't be quite as bad if you're eating enough protein and you're eating enough carbohydrates. So to make sure that you're eating enough carbohydrates, it depends on the intensity of your workouts and how often that you're doing them. But I think a good rule of thumb is to have about 2 fistfuls worth of carbohydrates at every meal and snack. Or if you were to take your plate, I would divide it into a third or thirds and have 1/3 of your plate coming from carbohydrates. So again, if you want a number, what you would do is you would take your weight in pounds, divided by 2.2 to get to kilograms, and then multiply it by 3 to 7. And that would give you, again, a range to play around with as far as the amount of carbohydrates go. Quite frankly, you don't have to get that nitty gritty with it, but if you are a numbers person, you can certainly do that. So carbohydrates, if it's not around your workout, you want to focus on fibrous carbohydrates. So this can be things like sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, beans, quinoa, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, butternut squash, acorn squash, things along those lines. But of course, fruit is a carbohydrate as well. So fruit does count in there. It's just a different makeup of carbohydrates than a grain would be. So don't only eat fruit, you need both. And when you're going to work out, so before and after, you want to make sure that you are sandwiching your workouts with quick digesting carbohydrates. So fruit is an example, or dried fruit, but also like white breads, white rice, white pasta. I don't know if you're going to go out and eat a whole meal of pasta and rice or whatever before a workout, but you get the idea. Things that don't have a lot of fiber in them. That's what you want before and after your training session. And it's really important that you are eating before and after your training session, particularly carbs and protein, because the research actually shows that if you eat before your training session, you will be able to push yourself more during your training session. And then if you eat after, you will build more muscle, which in turn is actually going to help you to lose body fat if you're afraid of gaining a bunch of body fat. So it's really imperative for you to build muscle, to get stronger, to boost your sports performance, that you are eating carbohydrates and you're eating them around your workouts, but you're also eating them consistently throughout the day. So this is how everything works with your macronutrients. You can't just stockpile on a macronutrient at one particular meal. You really need to space it out over the course of the day. So let's talk about fats. Fats are really important for hormone production. And actually, females are going to burn more fatty acids as a fuel source than carbohydrates, as opposed to males. So if you are afraid of eating fats, hear me loud and clear. You need fats for hormone production and also an energy source. So without those hormones, that means that your body is not going to be building muscle, or not as well as it could be. So it is very important that you focus on getting in fat if you are afraid to eat fat, or you just generally don't eat a lot of fat. So these are going to be things like avocados, nuts, seeds, nut butters, olive oil, coconut oil, the egg yolks. Don't just eat egg whites, salmon, or other fattier fish. If you are eating grass-fed beef, it's okay to go ahead and have some of the fat on that meat, or have the ground beef that has a little bit more fat in it. Or if you're doing Greek yogurt, get the whole milk Greek yogurt from time to time, and that's going to help to increase the fat intake in your food. So what this looks like in terms of how much you should be eating at each meal, fat is a little bit harder to quantify than just protein and carbohydrates. But if I were to say an added fat to your meal, it would be a tablespoon of added oil. Or if it's going to be an avocado, I would do a half of an avocado. If it's nuts or seeds, I would have a couple tablespoons of that. Peanut butter, I would probably have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Basically, what you're looking for is about 15 grams of added fat to your meal. So you can certainly look at a food label. As long as that's not going to be triggering to you, you could look at a food label to figure out how much you should be eating. Okay, so now that we understand the key macronutrients and how to create a balanced plate and meal plan specifically for muscle building, let's talk about meal timing, because meal timing is just as important as what you're going to eat. So you, like I said, need to eat at regular intervals throughout the day, and you can't stockpile on one particular macronutrient at one meal. You need to space them out over the course of each meal or snack over the course of the day. That way your body really comes to expect what it's going to get, and it can actually utilize it, and utilize it well. So what I would suggest doing is, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to eat within an hour of waking up. That is when your body's most like a sponge. That's when your body's going to release a bunch of cortisol so that it can give you enough energy to get to some food, but not a whole lot of energy to do anything else. So you need to eat at that point so that you have enough fuel to do the other things throughout your day. From there, you're going to count off every 2 to 4 hours. 4 hours would be your maximum to eat. I would suggest, if you're trying to build muscle, you really stick on that 2 to 3 hour range. If you cannot eat that often, then you can push it out to 4 hours. Just know that your meals are going to have to be larger to account for getting in more calories spread across less meals over the course of the day. So let's just take an example. If you wake up at 5 a.m., you're going to eat by 6 a.m. And then let's count off 3 hours from there. You're going to eat by 9 a.m. and then again at 12 p.m. and then again at 3 p.m., then again at 6 p.m. And you may even want to consider having a small protein snack before you go to bed, if the time allows, because that is actually going to help with preventing muscle breakdown while you sleep. And actually, research shows, even for female athletes, that it will help to increase muscle protein synthesis or muscle growth overnight. So let me give you some meal ideas, because you may be thinking, oh my gosh, that is so many times that I have to eat. How in the world am I going to eat that much? So for breakfast, you can have some scrambled eggs, throw in some spinach with some whole grain toast, and then top it with a couple slices of avocado. Then your snack would be some Greek yogurt with some mixed berries and some granola on top. Lunch can be a grilled chicken and quinoa salad with some vegetables mixed in, whatever you have available, cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, onion, you get the idea, with a vinaigrette dressing and a piece of fruit on the side. And then your snack can be some hummus with carrots and cucumbers and a protein shake. Dinner, some baked salmon with sweet potatoes and roasted vegetables. And let's say that you're going to work out after dinner, so you can have a protein shake after you finish your evening workout. And that would also count for your snack before you go to bed. So you see, the meals aren't gigantic and they're pretty easy things to get in to eat, but it's really important that you are eating consistently over the course of the day. Like I said, if you want to stretch it out to every 4 hours and just have bigger meals, then that is completely fine. So the last thing that we want to talk about in this step-by-step guide is hydration. So hydration, I feel like a lot of times is overlooked because it's just, we're not talking about food. It's separate, a lot of people think. And hydration is really important. Let's just think about it for a second. It's making up like 70% of your body. So it's really important that we are putting back into our body what our bodies are taking out over the course of the day. So you pee over the course of the day, which means that you're certainly losing fluids. And if you're working out, then you are probably sweating, which again, you're losing fluid. Hydration is really important because it's going to be carrying nutrients throughout your system, through your bloodstream, so that you are actually getting the nutrients to your working muscles so that it can actually build muscle and boost sports performance. So you really want to aim for 2 to 3 liters of water per day. And this is going to vary based off of your activity level. So 2 to 3 liters, I would say, is kind of like your day-to-day drinking. And then from there, you need to make sure that you are getting in fluid, roughly, I would say 20 to 30 ounces per hour during training. And that can certainly include electrolytes. It doesn't just have to be plain water. In fact, I would recommend it to have electrolytes, especially if you are going to be training for multiple hours. Okay, we're going to touch on supplements now because I know I'm going to get this question. Supplements, while you certainly do not need them, you can use them. So let's go back to my story of when I built 10 pounds of muscle in 3 months. I actually didn't use any supplements at all. I didn't even use protein powder, or barely did I use protein powder. So let me tell you that the things that I'm telling you food-wise are sufficient for you to build a good amount of muscle and boost your sports performance. It's not necessary for you to take supplements. However, if you want to fast track some things or make your life a little bit easier, you can incorporate some supplements. And I would say the 2 main supplements that are going to be at the top of your list would be protein powder and creatine. So protein powder is just simply going to help you meet your protein needs throughout the day. There's no magical thing about protein powder, with the exception that it is higher in leucine if you're using a whey protein powder. And leucine is like a light switch with turning on muscle protein synthesis or muscle building. However, you can certainly get this from just drinking a glass of milk or from having some Greek yogurt. But protein powders are certainly going to be a convenient option, especially if you were on the go and you can't bring some other food with you. Now, creatine actually has a lot of research behind it. It is recognized as a safe supplement, and there's a lot of research behind it, especially for female athletes now. And if you are an older female athlete, there's a lot of research that supports it actually helping with building muscle and maintaining muscle. So creatine is a great option. Again, you certainly do not need it. You do get creatine from eating meat. However, you would have to eat a lot of meat to get in the 5 grams of creatine that you need per day to help build muscle. So creatine is going to help to enhance your strength and your muscle gains, especially when you're taking it in about 5-gram doses over the course of every single day. Now, there are some other supplements that are out there like beta-alanine, which can help with reducing muscle soreness, and that can certainly help, but it's not going to be directly tied to building muscle. That's more so going to be helping you if you have either 2-a-day training sessions, or you're going to have a training session followed by another training session the next day and you're just pretty sore, that type of thing. And that's also the same thing with branched chain amino acids. I get that question a lot. So branched chain amino acids, you're actually going to get out of a protein powder. So you don't really need to take additional branched chain amino acids. However, that can help again with reducing muscle soreness. So that would just be something to kind of play around with. So let's talk about some common myths and misconceptions around eating to build muscle. Number 1 is eating more protein will make you bulky, or I love this one. Lifting weights is going to make you bulky. Neither of them are actually going to make you bulky. Protein helps to build muscle, absolutely. But muscle gain is really a complex process that's influenced by lots of different factors, including your training intensity, your genetics, how much testosterone that you have in your body. So it's definitely not something to fear. Really, the women that are going to be getting extra bulky are those that are probably taking steroids, to be quite honest with you. So I wouldn't worry about eating more protein making you bulky, or like I said, even weight training. Next myth is carbs are the enemy, or I can't eat carbs. And carbs are really essential for energy, but then they're also essential for building muscle. And I've said this many times before, but carbohydrates are muscle sparing, which means that it is a fuel source to your muscles. So it's going to prevent your body from breaking down your own muscle mass and using that as a fuel source. So if you're trying to build muscle, you certainly don't want to take away from it by not eating enough carbohydrates. It's really more about eating the right types and the right amounts and periodically having them throughout the day. All right, myth number 3 is you only need to focus on nutrition during training to build muscle. So here's the deal. Consistent nutrition is really important, even on rest days, if you want to build muscle and you want to have good recovery. And you need good recovery to build muscle. I'll be honest with you, sometimes less is more in terms of training. If you are eating properly, you don't have to push yourself nearly as much in the gym because your body's actually going to take those nutrients and utilize them and help turn them into muscle rather than your body constantly being in a deficit. If you're constantly in a deficit, guess what? It's not going to be building muscle because there is no extra to build from. So you really want to make sure that you are consistently eating in a little bit of an excess all the time. And that would be on training days and non-training days alike, even if it's the weekend. So let's talk about a few practical tips so that you can implement all this. Number 1 is to meal prep. So set aside a time each week where you can prepare your meals in advance. And this is really going to help you to stay on track. And I have so many episodes on meal prep that I will drop some down in the show notes for you so that you can listen to them. But meal prep is really going to save you here because it's going to make it so that you're not coming up on your next meal and thinking, well, what am I going to eat now? Because I have nothing in the refrigerator. Number 2 is listen to your body. So think back to that hunger fullness scale that I talked about. That is being in tune with your body and listening to your body. So make sure that you're paying attention to that and also paying attention to how different foods make you feel. If you notice that you're eating a certain food and that's making your stomach hurt or it's making your energy crash or whatever, then there's no need for you to push yourself to eat that food. I don't care if somebody promotes it as the best food, it's the superfood, whatever. You don't need to push yourself to eat that food. Everybody is going to respond differently to various diets. Last up is to make sure that you are staying educated so you keep learning about nutrition and how it affects your performance. So this is where you really want to continue listening to this podcast where I'm going to give you credible nutrition advice for female athletes so that you can get stronger, build muscle, boost your sports performance, and your confidence. And if you need additional help, that's when you're going to reach out to me and sign up for my coaching program. You can just head on over to elitenutritionandperformance.com/coaching to see if you're a good fit for that program so that we can help you to get stronger and build that muscle. Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you, encouraged you, or changed you, I would love for you to leave me a review and share it with a girlfriend who will find it helpful or inspiring. That is the best way you can thank me and help me share my knowledge so I can help more people just like you. I'm so thankful that you spent this time with me today, and I'd love to connect with you. Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, or send me a DM on Instagram, or hop on over to my website, elitenutritionperformance.com. I'll see you back here next week.